Welcome to the Mutual UFO Network Los Angeles. I'm Sandra Marsh, your speaker coordinator. Tonight's special guest is Tom Dongo, and we are very fortunate to have him, as I have tried for 10 years to convince Tom to come to Los Angeles to lecture for you. Tom is a friend and a colleague. I've worked with him in the field, and I assure you that if he saw, heard, or felt something unusual, that it was, in fact, there. Whatever the event, Tom has the ability to remain impartial and as objective as possible. And I greatly admire his high level of integrity, ethics, deep sincerity, and his lack of ego, even about his own work, which is unusual in this field. In a field like ours, rife with frauds, charlatans, hoaxers, and egomaniacs, there's much people could learn from Tom Dongo about UFOs, paranormal phenomena, spirituality, and humility. To my knowledge, Tom has the most comprehensive and encompassing material and the most amazing, eye-opening accounts of ongoing high strangeness in Sedona, Arizona. He has authored several books that every researcher investigator should have in their library. Books such as Alien Tide, Mysteries of Sedona, and Merging Dimensions. And Merging Dimensions was the book that he co-wrote with Linda Bradshaw. As a researcher, investigator, experiencer, sensitive, and 16-year resident of the magical Red Rock City and the Verde Valley areas, Tom Dongo has a wonderful background, affording him a well-rounded perspective and grounded insight into the fascinating secrets of Sedona. I have witnessed a great deal of UFO activity and paranormal phenomena in Sedona, and personally, I saw many of Linda Bradshaw's paranormal photographs. Tom had graciously asked Linda if I could come out, and she agreed, and she's really a wonderful person, and I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time out there and experience some of what was going on out there. Anyway, I am convinced that there was something extraordinary happening to the Bradshaws, and some of the bizarre occurrences on that ranch left even the most experienced of us in disbelief and questioning our sanity. And just a couple of hours ago, Tom and I were even laughing about that, talking about some events, just sitting there going, pinching ourselves even a couple hours ago, going, did we really see that? Did we really experience that? Because it still blows our minds. Tom has one of the largest collections of UFO photos in the world, and he could regale you for days with strange accounts, but unfortunately, we only have him for 2 hours, and I'm sure you're anxious to hear him. However, Tom, he does operate the most luxurious and comfortable guided tour company in Sedona, and since he and his partner customized the tour based on your requests, you can catch up with the latest advance Tom has investigated, have adventurous sightseeing tours, or just relax into a spiritual quest. And I assure you that Tom knows all the places that people like the military and the government don't want you to know about. And they're making sure that you can't get into those areas. And that might be a topic that Tom's probably going to cover a little bit about this evening, but it's really aggravating for many of us who have been going there and doing a lot of spiritual work, and we can't have access to these vortex areas or these magical areas that brought us so much joy and awakening over many years. Since Tom has some exciting new video footage, which is rather long, and I'm sure you're all anxious to see it, just as I am, let's get into it, and please extend a warm welcome to my very good friend, Tom Dongo.
Yeah, I do, yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Sandra. That was probably the nicest introduction I've ever had. I've got an awful lot of territory to cover tonight, so I'm going to get right into it. Can everybody hear me okay? No. No, okay. I'm going to have to get closer to this. I don't think it will raise. No, that's okay. I'll just get a little bit closer to it like this. Let's see. Can we start the slide projector? Can we get that going? Okay. It's one of my favorite sayings. And I do have some books back there on the table, and these two are very important. I always try to push these two. It's Merging Dimensions, and this is really Merging Dimensions book 2. It's basically stuff that happened on the Bradshaw Ranch in Sedona. And it's all true. It's very important research material. So I highly recommend these two books. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Incidentally, the UFO activity in Sedona lately has been incredible. In the last 6 months, it's been astronomical, in my opinion. And I do have a 27-minute video of stuff that was, actually, we just edited this yesterday. So it's pretty awesome stuff. And I have quite a bit of slides, so I'm going to...
Can you get closer
to that? Okay. Okay, I won't go any further up with it now. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just kind of lean here. There, how's that? Okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about Sedona. I can't see all of you, so I don't know how many of you have been to Sedona, but this is what it looks like. This is Boynton Canyon here, and it's one of the vortexes. And incidentally, this is another vortex. This is the Boynton Canyon vortex. And in my opinion, the vortexes are simply magnetic energy, concentrated magnetic energy. There's thousands of theories what they are, but I'm probably the world's expert on vortexes. I don't think anybody's been doing it longer than I have. And I've watched how vortexes affect people. And they do affect people. And I think it's simply magnetic energy. And there are more than 4 vortexes. There are hundreds of them in the canyons. This is Cathedral Rock. It's designated as a vortex, and the vortex is probably right in the middle, towards the top there. Bell Rock, and incidentally, the UFO activity around Bell Rock lately has been just astronomical. Why Bell Rock? I don't know. Nobody does. There was a round silver ball seen just to the south of Bell Rock 2 days ago. And in my opinion, the round chrome balls are about as alien as you can get. They're not seen very often, but they're usually extreme alien. There's been some amazing stories in the past about the big round chrome balls. This one was about 50 feet across, and it just blinked out. The guy watched it for a few minutes, and it just blinked out, and that's what they do. Let me get another mic. Just switch here. Swing that over here. Okay. Okay, it's got to come down. Okay, I'll stand over here.
For you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Okay, there, good. Okay, now this is the Dry Creek area, and 12 years ago this was the scene of some incredible UFO activity. And actually, there were a group of people that were right in this area here, kind of UFO watching, and a jet fighter came this way, and well, actually, I take that back. The fighter came this way, a UFO came this way, a big white ball of light, and just before it hit the fighter, it was going to hit the fighter, it took a 90-degree turn. So you can imagine what the fighter pilot experienced with that, and that was actually quite common in those days, about 12 years ago in Sedona. Chemtrails, we've had plenty of chemtrails in Sedona, and a lot of people have been really sick. There's been a lot of sickness from the chemtrails. It's slacked off, luckily. But what happens is these things spread out, and after about 2 hours, the entire sky will be overcast. And it stays that way all day. These are the new photographs that were taken in Sedona. These are Nancy McKinney's photographs. And Nancy uses a digital camera. And one of the inventors of digital photography, whom doesn't want his name mentioned in any way in connection with these, has been looking at these, and he says that these are not defects in the camera at all. These are objects. The camera is filming actual objects. And you'll notice down here on these are behind the tree. These aren't specks of dust on the lens or rain. These are actual objects. And they have interesting rings, these pattern of rings in them. Very, very unusual, but you're starting to see that now in orbs. And orbs are being taken all over the world now. And I think Linda Crystal and Linda Bradshaw, I started working with Linda Bradshaw about 12 years ago. And I think I really have to give Linda Crystal and Linda Bradshaw the credit for pioneering orb photography. There were a few people before that did them, but that took photographs of them, but not like they did. Okay, this is another one of Nancy McKinney's photographs. And she uses all digital equipment, no 35 millimeter. So the digitals are sensitive to paranormal. And this is another one of her photographs, and it's pretty hard to explain that as a bug. That's a bug. It's a real strange looking bug. This is one she took just a few days ago. And again, these, well, actually, that's a good question. These are extreme magnification. This was probably about a mile away, so these are enormous blow-ups. But I don't know, I really don't know the size of them. I really don't. But she gets some, Nancy McKinney gets some very, very strange photographs. And I do have probably the world's best collection of or at least one of the world's best collections of very strange photographs. And Nancy's are really unique. This is another one of Nancy's. This was taken just a few days ago. And then again, that's an extreme magnification. And this is one of Nancy's. It's a little bit blurred, but you can see the face in it. See, there's the mouth, the two eyes, an ear. It's a perfect face. The jawbone, the skull. It is out of focus because it's blown up about 10 times what it was on the print. This is another one of Nancy McKinney's photographs. This flew over our house in Sedona when I was living over by the Chapel of the Holy Cross. And it was headed towards Nancy's house. So I said, Nancy, there's a UFO headed towards your house. And we have this on video too. So Nancy went out and took some still photographs of it. And a friend of mine who was in the U.S. military did some computer stuff with this. And there's a metal object sticking out of it right here. I didn't bring it along because it just didn't come out very well in a photograph when I re-photographed these for slides. But Nancy embossed it, and that object came out like that. This is Village of Oak Creek. This was taken by a woman about 2 years ago in the Village of Oak Creek. Here's the moon. There's some houses down here. And I used to live right behind this rock. And this thing was taking off. It was going straight up. And she got so fascinated by watching the thing, she forgot to take more photographs of it. She took two. One, the object was right here, and one was here, but it went straight up. And this is, I can't quite see it, but there's an object up here. It's squared, has a half dome on the top and a half dome on the bottom. I can't see it from there. Let's see. But anyway, it's up there. And again, this is Bell Rock, and a lot of strange activity around Bell Rock. And you know, this lot of theories that there's energy coming out of the top of the rock. And that could very well be, because a an amazing amount of UFO activity is seen around the top of that rock. And in fact, where we lived a year ago, we could see Bell Rock. We could look straight over to it. And one night there was a UFO sitting right here, and it had flashing lights all around it. And when we started watching it, it moved slowly, slowly this way and kind of disappeared in the distance. It was not a plane. We've got a couple of these on video. Okay, I'm going to get into the spirals. I drew these in to trace the spirals. I've got hundreds of these now. And what they are, I have no idea. Psychics claim that they're probably astral humans. I would go along with that.
Is this something that showed up in the picture later?
Yeah, no, very, very few of these. In fact, I don't know of any of them that were actually seen. They just showed up on prints, you know, after somebody took a photograph. But I had just got through saying to some people that I had never seen the end of one of these things. And I got this one the next day. I took this picture. So whatever this thing is, whatever the creature or being is, this is it right here. And they're either moving very slow or moving incredibly fast, because it takes a speed of about 5,000 miles an hour to cross one frame on a photograph like that. And so you can see the spiral here. Got many, many of these. Linda Bradshaw took this one a few days after the previous one. And again, you see the spiral. They all have this spiral pattern. There's another one. This was taken at the Bradshaw Ranch. I'll get into the Bradshaw Ranch shortly. I think probably quite a few of you are familiar with the Bradshaw Ranch. There's another spiral. I call this one the wing. It was right in front of me, and I couldn't see it, but it showed up on the film. Okay, this is the Bradshaw Ranch. Can you guys roll video 1?
I've been in this country for 50 years, and I finally saw something that proved that there was UFOs and spaceships.
I was awestruck. Once I overcame the shock, I grabbed my camera because I wanted to photograph it.
What's unusual about this place is the fact that there's such a concentration of this type of phenomena, of the frequency of it, the variety of it that's going on here.
In many ways, the Bradshaw Ranch is like any other ranch near Sedona, Arizona. But it's also becoming known as a center of unexplained phenomena, and perhaps a window to other worlds. What you are seeing is videotape footage of a UFO shot at the Bradshaw Ranch on a typical night. It is for this reason that the ranch is taking on a new name, Galactic Park.
Keep in mind the government
We saw
owns that ranch
this
now.
spaceship almost immediately, 40 or 50 balls of light come fast. They were traveling fast down that hillside and right into the ranch. It was really a spectacular thing to see.
For Bob Bradshaw and his wife Linda, it all started when they began witnessing strange phenomena that neither could explain.
I saw some really incredible things. I saw a red ball of light shoot straight into the sky and shoot out. I saw UFOs. And while I was photographing all of this, I sensed something behind me. And I turned around, and right above the bush was a pulsating ball of light, and it was beamed right at me.
When Linda first told her son Victor, he was skeptical.
I would tell him, these things are out there, and he used to tease me. You'd come into my home humming the Twilight Zone theme to give me a hard time.
But now Victor is a believer. While hiking near the property one day, he witnessed and recorded strange phenomena with his video camera.
I'm very familiar with the territory and the animals in this area, and I've seen some animals that I've never known to exist.
The Bradshaws started capturing so many unexplainable images, they called in internationally known author and UFO researcher Tom Dongo. He's co-written a book about the paranormal activity of the area.
I got my camera out and took some photographs, random photographs. These are random photographs in any direction. And I got some of the same sort of thing, but different.
What I got was different from what Linda got. Linda shot a strange photograph that appeared to her to be an enormous movie screen in the sky.
A huge, brilliant light showed up in the sky. It was octangular. I got 2 frames before it flicked back out again. All I could see with my eye was the light, but when I picked up the photograph, there was a picture of another place. It showed a ship flying through the air, telephone pole. There are no telephone poles here. It almost looks like it might be on the shore of an ocean. And there was a humanoid in the far left corner. We feel that this is indicative of showing us that there is another dimension right here. There is a connection. There is an opening.
On Bob and Linda's invitation, we sent a camera crew to Bradshaw Ranch to see for ourselves. Our night vision cameras did capture something we can't explain. A strange strobing light that amazed the Bradshaws and our crew.
There's one right there. We've got one of the major ones on the right with the gold. Yep.
So that one just popped right up, didn't it? Yep.
Yeah, and it's still there.
And I'm going to go to the doubler, so I'm going to increase the magnification.
Oh, look at
It seems like it's very small.
There's a pyramid.
These strange UFOs may seem fantastic,
Pyramid in it.
but Tom Dongo says they are familiar visitors to the ranch and can be seen almost nightly.
Well, that's one of them. Now, it'll probably blink out in a second, but you'll notice it's almost not moving. And it'll get dimmer and brighter and dimmer and brighter. Very, very odd phenomena.
Just where it popped right out.
One evening, Tom took the spotlight and flashed 3 times. It flashed back at us 3 times. At that point, we knew that there was an intelligence.
What are these unexplainable sightings? And why does it happen so frequently here near Sedona? Could there be a stargate or portal to other dimensions? According to UFO researchers like Brian Myers, the answer may be found in science.
Well, the scientific community has done a lot of research on dimensions. They have established that there are multiple dimensions existing in the same space. Now, why certain areas are like bleed-through areas or merging points or what people are calling portals, we don't know that.
Sedona, for centuries thought to be a mystical place, a sacred location where strange and inexplicable things happen. Now photographic evidence seems to support these legends, and thanks to a special agreement, the Bradshaw Ranch will soon be a research site on multiple dimensions and UFOs.
Yeah, for the government.
Coming up.
Okay, back to the slides. I started to say, most of you are familiar with the stuff that's going on in Utah with Bigelow's ranch, the Gorman Ranch, whatever. And it's interesting that Linda Bradshaw and I had 6 years experience with the same kind of stuff that was going on at the Gorman Ranch, and they never once called us, didn't contact us in any way, which I find really odd. And we sent them some of our best stuff, and we never heard a word from them. So this is the Bradshaw Ranch at night. This was a couple of years ago. It came through. They got it now. How often does Congress provide money to buy a ranch? Okay, I'm going to run through these. These are some of the first photographs that were taken on the Bradshaw Ranch, and right after this, Linda contacted me and I got involved in it, and then the whole thing started from there, and it was quite an odyssey after that. Some of the experiences Linda and I had on the ranch are kind of legendary. I'll speak a little bit about some of them tonight. This guy over here was a retired CIA agent. This light followed him around all night. Every picture we took of him, that light was either on top of his head or right near him somewhere. This is me meditating on white light, and this thing shows up right in front of me. I told Linda I was going to meditate on white light and then take a picture of me, and that showed up. Here's one right on my chest. I'd gone over to talk to Linda one night. I left my camera on the tripod, and the camera went off by itself when it was sitting on the tripod, and something jiggled the camera. Because this is blurred in the background, but this isn't. So while the shutter was open, usually we had anywhere from a 5-second to 20-minute exposure time on the shutter. Something came down, did all of this, stopped, and then shot out of the picture. And nobody touched the camera. Linda Bradshaw took this out of through the kitchen window in the ranch, these two like barbells hanging up there. While Paranormal Borderline was out there filming, they had her walk around. We just walked around and burned that film, and then looked and see what would appear on the negatives. We didn't very often develop them into prints. It was just too expensive. It got incredibly expensive. So we would just develop the negatives and then look on then see what was on the negatives through a light. But while she was walking around just snapping the camera, these showed up on one of her prints. And this was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's another one of Linda's photographs. This is one of mine. This is I've probably been on national and international television 30 times. Back in the middle 90s, I was in hot demand for interviews. And this photograph went all over the world. It was seen all over the world. And I took it not at the Bradshaw Ranch, but on Bradshaw Hill, which is above the ranch. These things take off out of the bush. They come up out of the trees and just take off. That's the sort of thing that used to go on the Bradshaw Ranch all the time. Same thing. Here we went in to eat one night at the ranch house, and I left the camera on the tripod with the shutter open. And the shutter was open for about 20 minutes. And in that 20 minutes, all these things came up out of the trees and took off. And we didn't see them. If that isn't strange, I don't know what is. Okay, here's the Bradshaw Ranch again. Here's one of these spirals, but here's a shadow right in front of the camera. What's causing the shadow? It isn't this. So there's something in front of the camera that's causing a shadow. And here's another one. Same thing. The camera's here in the front, but there's a shadow. There's this thing up here, but that's probably not what's causing the shadow. And here's that guy again with the light. Tracks. There were a lot of strange creatures on the Bradshaw Ranch. Linda saw this white Bigfoot that she called Big Girl. And I was really skeptical about that whole thing. I really was. It just, it seemed like it was a little bit too much. Until one day, there's an old western town on the ranch that they used to film western movies at. And there wasn't anybody within miles of us because the Bradshaw Ranch is in the middle of the national forest. And Linda said that the Bigfoot would pick up a stick or something and rap 3 times on a tree or whatever. So we were walking out of the old west town, and something picked up what sounded like a 2x4 and hit the side of a building 3 times as hard as it could. We were about 200 yards out of the town, and it was whatever did it was very, very strong. And after that day, I believed everything Linda said about Bigfoot. And 2 of the boys on the ranch went deer hunting one day. They were total disbelievers in anything to do with UFOs or the paranormal. Linda heard a blood-curdling scream from inside the ranch house, Bigfoot scream. And the boys came running back, threw their guns in the corner and said, we believe, and ran out the door, got in their pickup truck and went into town. Here's a track here. For a while, there were these creatures that... There were quite a few people that saw these tracks, and I've got photographs of one. The foot is 12 inches long. It has 5 toes, and they're round like grapes. And whatever it was that made that track weighed about 1,000 pounds on a 12-inch foot. It's a long story, but I took quite a few photographs of it, and there were a lot of tracks. barefoot tracks, and somebody with tennis shoes that was walking around. Either they were both wearing the same tennis shoes, same type, or it was either one person or two people. I couldn't tell. But I put my foot next to the track, and I weighed 200 pounds, and my foot barely made an impression on the soil, but that track sunk in well over an inch. So whatever the thing was, it weighed around 1,000 pounds. Another track. There were 3-toed tracks and 5-toed tracks on the ranch.
Did you ever make a plaster cast?
Yeah, good question. You know, we had no luck with that whatsoever, because if in bone dry soil, if you try to take a plaster cast, it just doesn't work. You get about 2 square yards of soil that comes up with it. So one day there was a guy on the ranch that had a lot of experience with casting tracks, and he said spray it with shellac first. And we thought, why didn't we think of that? And from that day on, there were no strange tracks on the ranch. Oh, by the way, this was, these are 3 different photographs. This red thing seemed to be watching Linda taking photographs of these tracks. It just showed up in each one of the prints. Okay, this one. That's not the best one I've got, but you can see skin creases in this. And it was kind of a round track. We still don't understand this, but it had a stride of 36 to 48 inches, and it left about 20 tracks. And how it began, Linda and I were standing side by side, and we heard a growl. Now, the Bradshaws had 7 dogs on the ranch. They just took in dogs. If a stray dog raid wandered on the ranch, they'd keep it. So they had 7 dogs. And Linda and I were standing there, and we heard a growl, really unusual growl. There's an apple orchard on the ranch, and on the other side of it, it was probably about 100 yards away. So we heard a couple of growls and a couple of grunts. Then we heard a roar that sounded like an African lion. So the dogs all took off in the direction of this thing, and we expected to hear, you know, a horrific fight, you know, dogs being torn to pieces or whatever. And there was never a sound. So about 10 minutes later, the dogs came back, and whatever it was had moved around to the south end of the ranch. And there were 2 corrals. There was horses at one end and horses at the other end, and the horses were screaming. And if you've ever heard a horse scream, it'll raise the hair on your head straight up. It's a horrific sound. Whatever it was walked right by you could hear the horses kicking the corral, trying to get out, trying to kick the boards out of the corral. And so the next day we went down. We got fairly close to the creature, but we didn't see it. It's a long story. So the next day we found these tracks down there, and they were 36 to 48 inches apart. And I'm 6'3", and my stride is 24 inches from toe to heel. So whatever that thing was about 10 feet tall, we figure. Here's probably where a Bigfoot laid down. This is 10 feet from top to the bottom. And Bob checked this out. He'd been a rancher all of his life, and he said that was not a cow and it was not a horse. So I'm kind of going on what Bob said. And I think Linda said it had a head and arms and 2 feet and buttocks here. So this one here is a little. The Bradshaws had a gift shop on the ranch, the old ranch. It had been closed for years, and the candy was about as stale as candy could possibly be. We went over there. Linda called me one day, and she said, "You got to come out to the ranch and look at this." And usually I would just drop everything when she said that, because I knew it was going to be something really, really good. So we went down to the gift shop, and whatever got in there hadn't broken the lock on the door, hadn't gone through the window. It seemed to have gone right through the wall, and it sat there and ate hundreds and hundreds of these pepper balls, those round jawbreakers, and chewing gum. And whatever it was screwed the lids. These lids are about 12 inches across, and it screwed the lids off. I don't think a pack rat can do that. And it just sat there eating these things. This is a photograph I took on the Bradshaw Ranch. The ranch house was right here.
How far is that up off the ground?
About 6 feet. 6 feet off the ground. There's a blow up of it. I have no idea what it is. I've had some biblical scholars look at this, and they say there are 4 or 5 places in the Bible where highly advanced humans, ascended humans, when they come back to Earth, they appear as a flame. So who knows? But I didn't see it. It showed up on one of the prints. These things, I got 3 of these. These things moved around. Whenever there's something on a photograph that stays in the same place in every photograph, there's something either on the lens or there's something wrong with the camera. But when they move around, it's something else. And these did. These like amoeba-looking things. I got 3 of these. And this is, I actually saw this myself. I had forgotten about it. This looks like a television screen hanging in the sky. Linda took this photograph, and there still are no telephone poles on the ranch. And this was about 12 feet in front of the ranch house. Now there's a, oh here, I'll go to the next one. See, there's a pyramid, there's a bat-like creature, and I think the number 39 I've got here, and then the humanoid down here. I believe I've got a slide of that. The humanoid is very strange. Yeah, and it's pretty clear. 2 eyes, a helmet, a neck, 2 shoulder pads, an arm, I mean the left arm, the right arm coming down, the hand, left leg, right leg, and it's got something in its arm. This thing's curved. See right here? The arm comes down, it's holding this thing. Something's curved. So. This is a photograph I took. I was taking photographs this is an open field. The edge of the field is right about here. So this appeared on the print and this appeared on the print. And there was nothing in front of me. Like I say, this is an open field, no bushes, no nothing. Now this is either the front of somebody or the back. I mean, it's kind of odd because there's a lanyard-like thing here, and it almost looks like a fabric. And there was nobody in front of me. Between Linda and I, we got about 12 of these, and some of them were floating in the air. They were actually quite a ways up. And then there was this thing over here. We blew this was blown up by accident one day. I had a Photoshop blow it up, but they blew up the wrong part of it. And I was looking at this and I said, well, wait a minute, there's a foot here. And this was in the middle of winter, it was very cold. Here's a sandaled foot, 2 feet, and the toes are kind of funny. And whoever this was, I couldn't see him. This is a dog laying up there. This patch is the dog who died of a mysterious, some of their animals, the ranch was sprayed 3 times from the air. And it had a strange insecticide smell, and that some of the dogs died, and some of the horses had tumors on them that the veterinarian said he'd never seen anything like it in 30 years of practice. So here's this guy standing here. You can see the pant leg. Now there's a shadow right here, and this is his or her right hand. So you can see the sleeve here, and there's either a big pot belly or a big chest here. And again, this is somebody that was standing right in front of me. I couldn't see him, and they're holding this thing. Is it a weapon? Is it something that keeps it invisible? I believe I've got a better shot of that. Yeah. And it's about 12 inches across. It's metallic, and it's got these lights on it. It's anybody's guess what it is. Then Linda took this photograph. She and I were standing together. It's not me. But if you'll notice, I've had a lot of medical doctors look at this, and they're really intrigued by it. Blue-black hair. There's no hole in the ear. There's just a crease here and a crease here, and some sort of a growth here. Blue-black hair, and the eye. If you take a normal human and turn them sideways so that you get a profile, the eye bulges out. Try it. But this guy, you can't even see the eye. It's so small. you know, one thing I found really curious is look at the sideburn, the early Star Trek. Roddenberry, you know, was Roddenberry privy to information that, you know, that hardly anybody else was, because this is exactly like the sideburns they had on the early Star Trek, the crew of the series. It's exactly the same same angle. So, and this guy was completely invisible. It just showed up on one of Linda's photographs. And interesting, it's got kind of like a sweat, athletic sweatshirt kind of a deal on. It's kind of strange. Okay, Linda would set her camera down at night, and something was picking up the camera. It took, I believe, 48 photographs in the ranch house. There'd be 10 photographs developed on the print, and she'd pick the camera up and it would be showing 18 the next morning, so they'd have them developed. And something was taking photographs inside the ranch house. And one night it picked up the camera, it took a panorama. Linda was sleeping on the couch. She had back problems, severe back problems. So she slept out on the couch a lot, it was more comfortable. Something picked up the camera, she had it laying on the coffee table in front of her, took a panoramic photos of the inside of the ranch house, but not of her laying there. The only one that didn't take a photo, whatever it was, didn't take a photograph, was the next one it would have taken where she was laying. So, one night there was a bunch of us sitting around the dining room table, and I had this light bulb idea. I said, why don't we dust the camera with baby powder tonight and see what happens when it picks it up? And whatever it was 3 feet tall, because the photographs are taken about 3 feet off the floor. So we did, and whatever it was picked the camera up that night, and this is it. This is the print it left. Now it's either furry or it's not quite dimensionalized. Maybe it's not quite materialized. And there's a square print on the side of the camera right here. So it was this one, this one. This is one of Linda's Linda's prints here, when she picked the camera up. And this is one of the photographs that it took. I've had almost most of my photographs have been looked at by some of the world's experts in photography, and for the most part, they're just totally baffled. This one really blows their mind, because here it is totally in focus here, and everything else is out of focus. And this was taken with an automatic camera, and this was taken probably at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Look at what's outside the ranch house window. It's so bright, it's actually washed the photograph out. And here's something sitting on the dining room table that we don't know what is. It's not a cordless phone. Linda thought it was their cordless phone. One day I took their cordless phone and set it next to the water glass, and it's not even close, doesn't even closely resemble that. So it's not a cordless phone. Linda's son Victor took this photograph, and when he took the pickup truck was bouncing up and down. It was actually flexing in the middle, and then this light showed up on the print. This is one of my favorites. Doesn't look like much, but we had 5 spheres of light fly up to us one night, and we kept asking these things to come closer. Stick around and see the video footage I've got towards the end. I've got 27 minutes of these things, and they're incredible. Whatever they are, most of them are living beings. They're living creatures, because we played with these things all the time with Morse code, like flashes with our spotlights. We had 1 million candle power spotlights, and we would flash in a Morse code sequence, and they'd flash back. So these things have intelligence, and they have a sense, and they have a sense of humor also. Because one night we were flashing in a Morse code sequence to these lights. It was, I think, 33322, 33322, with no response from them whatsoever. So we went to bed that night, or I left and went home. But then the next night I pulled up to the ranch, and there was a light sitting right over the top of the ranch, and it was flashing the same sequence that I had been flashing to it the night before, then it disappeared. So it's kind of an indication to me they have a sense of humor. But this light flew right up to us. Actually, it was up here, a huge sphere of light. And I took the photograph, and it's down here. It's kind of an oblong thing, and the whole back, all the trees are lit up as if there's a Klieg light or something back there. And this was not what it looked like at all. It was pitch dark, and there was a round orb right here, extremely bright round orb. This is one of our favorites. Now, when if you look at this closely, the next day we checked. The next day we checked, and there were 6 people in the area that night, and nobody looked like this. So this is somebody that was invisible. The eyes are glowing. It has a very long face. It's pushed forward. Has ears like Spock on Star Trek, and it's holding something in its hand. And it's not. It wasn't one of us. Because nobody was wearing clothes. The first thing we do is check clothes when something like that happened, and so it was somebody that was unseen. This is a fence post here, and this is somebody that was standing right in front of me, probably less than the focal length of my camera was about 3 feet. So whatever it was probably 2 feet. You see the white hair, kind of an odd protrusion on the forehead here, and a finger coming up like it's going to cover its face. Either that, or it was trying to give me the finger. I can't figure out which. You know. Okay, the tunnel system. There is. This has been quiet for about 6 years, but I'm convinced there's a tunnel system that runs at least from Flagstaff to Jerome and probably to other points, west and south. These are all the canyons here. And in every one of these canyons, there were gunpoint incidents where military types stopped people at gunpoint and told them if they took another step, they'd be shot. And this happened at least 36 times in Sedona that I know of. So they didn't want people to see something, and the only thing it could have been is an underground tunnel system. And a friend of mine has a friend that's in the government, a retired official, told him confidentially and told him never to tell me who he was. But he said that not only does the tunnel system exist, it goes all the way through Las Vegas and up to Area 51. Now this is from looking down from Jerome. The tunnel system runs through here. And this is the Phoenix cement plant, which to me is highly suspicious. There's 2 domes down here that are they're kiln drying domes, which you don't see domes too often at cement plants. The interesting thing is, I think that there's an underground base right here. There were a number of researchers that kind of combed through this area, and there were 2 gunpoint incidents. Armed guards stopped researchers here and here, and 2 off-duty police were right about in this area, and they found an open manhole cover, and they went down into it, and they didn't go very far, and they said the place was swarming with military, and just told them to take a walk and forget what they saw. We walked around in that area. If the manhole cover was plastic, you'd never find it. They could throw a few shovels of sand over it, you'd never find it. So, and there was, let's see if I can find his name.
The generators after late at night.
Yeah, you could hear generators running underground in that area, and you could actually feel the ground vibrating. I was in Boynton Canyon once, and I experienced that. It's like a locomotive engine running deep underground. It just the ground vibrates for a great distance around. But on May 22nd, 1998, David Barclay Miller, who was a Forest Service ranger, and he was 22 years old, and he was extremely experienced outdoorsman, went into Secret Canyon and never came out. They never found a trace of him. They went in with horseback, they went in with hounds, they searched from the air, on foot, and they've never found a trace of him. So David Barclay Miller saw something that somebody didn't want him to talk about. He was one of the unlucky ones that didn't get out of there. By now, somebody would have found his clothes or something. So not a trace of him has ever been found. These are the kiln drying domes at the Phoenix cement plant, and they're huge. This one's about 100 yards across. And this is exactly where I think there's an underground base. Now, underneath Jerome, the city of Jerome, there's 77 miles of mine tunnels. Over $1 billion worth of copper was taken out of there in the late 1800s and early 1900s. So there are between 77 and 85 miles of tunnels, which are probably still pretty dry and pretty open. So there could be anything down there. And 4,200 feet straight down, they hit an enormous deposit of gold and silver. So there's a huge hole way down there. So there could literally be anything down there. That could be the center of the tunnel system under Jerome. And curiously, Anton LaVey did live in Jerome for a while, the head of the satanic cult. He was there for about 5 years. Now this is Secret Mountain. Secret Mountain burned in 1993, I believe it was. The whole mountain burned. And yellow smoke was seen billowing up off Secret Mountain. And wood doesn't burn yellow. It burns gray or black or white. So something burned on Secret Mountain. This was the center of UFO activity in Arizona. And after Secret Mountain burned, there has been zero UFO activity around Secret Mountain. So whatever was there burned. And there was nightly UFO activity in this area. And it has stopped completely since that fire. And incidentally, the fire department in Sedona was ordered not to fight that fire. I can prove that. I have a friend, I won't name who it is a fellow researcher, has the evidence for that. He's quite a very well-known researcher. Okay, that's the Sedona stuff. Has anybody seen this? Has anybody out there seen this? This is a local photograph. Nobody's seen this. It's incredible. I showed this to Linda Moulton Howe and a few other people, and nobody has ever seen this. This was taken off Catalina Island in 1973. There were 2 photographs taken. The FBI confiscated everything this guy had. They took his camera, his film, they ransacked his house, but he had given 2 copies of this. There was another one. I didn't get the other one, but a high-ranking Marine officer from Camp Pendleton gave me this. And it was taken off Catalina Island in 1973. So it's a good photograph. Very few people have seen that. Okay, this is Sedona. This is one of my favorite photographs. This drove me nuts for a while because I was wondering, could this possibly be the full moon? Because the moon does rise in this area once a year. Rises exactly in this area. But the moon would be about this size. A full moon would be about this size, even with a 1,000 millimeter telephoto lens. So the only way you can get an effect like this on the moon is to use a Kochen diffusion filter. Now, if somebody used a Kochen diffusion filter, the ridgeline would be blurred, and it isn't. So this is an object probably 200 or 300 yards across, and look at the halo around it. And here's 2 lens flares. This was taken by a woman at 3 o'clock in the morning that had an urge to get up and go out and just snap a photograph in the dark, and she went back to bed, and this is what turned up on the film. And she and her husband have both disappeared since. Her husband has died, I understand, and she's just disappeared. So whether that has anything to do with the photograph, I'm not sure. But here's 3 very strange objects here. And these are lens flares. This thing's giving off enough light to create lens flares. But this object isn't a lens flare. It's something else. I was camping out on Dry Creek Road one night, and these 2, if I told this whole story, it would take me about 3 hours. I have to condense it. But these 2 objects flew over this mountain here in kind of a curving arc and stopped in front of me. And when they stopped, they were about this big, and they were chrome. These things were a chrome-colored light, and the most incredible thing I have ever seen in my life. they were so beautiful. It's hard to describe how beautiful they were. I mean, if you can visualize chrome light, that's what they were. And I caught them just before they blinked out. I grabbed my camera and took a 35 millimeter snapshot. And they were blinking out, and I caught them just as they disappeared. And there was a lot of Bigfoot activity that night too, in that area. This was taken near the Bradshaw Ranch. See the shadow on the... this is one of my favorites. This is a real crowd pleaser. And I literally have had the world's experts in photography look at this. And a lot of Hollywood film producers and directors have looked at this. Some of the big name directors and producers, at least for documentaries anyways. And this was done, you can do this on a computer now, but this is about 12 years old. You couldn't do it. I know it's not a hoax, because I know the people that took it. So here's something that showed up on a film. You know, somebody says it's the exhaust pipes on a 55 Chevy. You know? But what is it? You know, what is it? It's not, the thing drove me nuts for the longest. Sometimes I'll go to great lengths to get to the bottom of things, and I went to some film laboratories, and I said, how could that possibly be a light leak? With light leaks, you'll get kind of funny colors like that with light leaks. And finally, we came to the conclusion that there's no possible way it could have been a light leak. And one technician said, well, when the film was running through the machine, somebody opened the lid. Well, that's impossible. You can't do that when the machine, and get it, you know, back then at least, you couldn't do that. It's not possible. So it's not a light leak. This was taken by Renee Props. She was quite a well-known actress for a while in her backyard in Sedona. She just went out and she was taking some pictures of the star taking pictures of stars with a disposable camera of all things. And this showed up, and she thinks it's an angel. Well, maybe it is. There's two hands up here too, but it just couldn't get them on the print. I mean, you know, there's a head, there's wings, there's a body here, so who knows? And she got 3 or 4 of these like that showed up. This was taken out near the Bradshaw Ranch a few years ago. Now, the interesting thing, these were taken in a 1-year period in 3 or 4 places around the country. The exact same thing. I have never seen any since. But there was different people in different places that got these kinds of photographs. So it wasn't one person with one camera. These are pretty odd, whatever they are. These were taken in Sedona about 2 years ago by a retired psychologist. It was pitch dark night, and there are no other lights. This is wilderness area back here, and here's these lights kind of coming out of the trees. Yeah, this is kind of a potpourri of photographs here. This is my back. About 13 years ago, I woke up in the morning. These are triangles, and underneath each triangle is a dot. And there's another one over here that isn't quite formed. And the first one was right on the center of my spine. The skin's pulled over a little bit, but the first one was right on the center of my spine. And they stayed there for about 7 or 8 days. I have no idea, you know, what they are. Probably somebody's calling card. I don't know. But and then about a year after, I woke up one morning, and I had these on my legs. There was one on my right leg and one on my left leg on the inside, and they were identical. So I went around town and I showed these to some people, some medical people, and it really freaked people out because they had a green tint to them. It didn't show up here in the film, but they had a green color to them. So I called a few UFO researchers and I said, hey, these things appeared on my legs. Should I, you know, break them and sterilize them? And everybody said, no, don't do that. So I didn't, and I was sick for 3 months. So it was something inoculating me. I don't know. These are petroglyphs, the Indian wall decorations around Sedona, and it's kind of a pretty fair indication that aliens were involved with Indians 800 or 1,000 years ago in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico. The Anasazi culture disappeared about 800 years ago, and they left drawings on the walls that look just like grays today. They're identical. They said they had left with the ant people. The Chaco Canyon culture completely disappeared. And it was it was a very large complex of buildings, and they had a system of roads that branched out from Chaco Canyon like a wagon wheel. In satellite photography, the roads show up quite well. And they completely disappeared about 800 years ago. This was taken in Wickenburg, Arizona, right after an Indian ceremony. See the woman's hair standing on end, and here's this creature right behind her head. This is her boyfriend. These are whited out bushes. But here's this creature right behind her head. This is part of the creature here. The whole thing is not there. But this is part of the creature, and there's a blue, like a Christmas bulb down here. Now here's the eye, and here's the nose. It's got an eye like a snake and a nose like a rabbit. And it's got a ring around its head right here, like it's poking its head through above water. Maybe this is a dimension, but see, it's in focus here and not in focus here. This is Enterprise, Utah. I had gone up to James Gilliland's ranch a couple of years ago, and I camped on the way. And the first time I went up there, I noticed a light here. It was about 15 miles away. Then I saw it here. And I saw it in a few different places. So on the way back, I decided to camp there. And I left the camera on a tripod and took a few photographs. And I got up one morning, and I took this photograph here. It was right outside the truck. And it got very close. It would flash, very, very bright. The flash would last for maybe a second. But this is whatever it was, this is it. And the thing steadily kept coming towards me. Okay, now this one here, I think this is the last slide. This is very important to me. I was in Phoenix a few years ago, and this thing flew right over Phoenix. And it looked exactly like that. I saw it following an airliner in. I looked at that and I thought, could that possibly be a helicopter? And I did have a pair of binoculars. I didn't have a camera, but I watched this thing. It followed the airliner in, and I called the airport afterwards, and they took my report very seriously when I talked about this thing. They didn't make jokes. They didn't try to ridicule it. They took it very, very seriously, what I said about this thing. So I have the feeling that they've seen this thing before. This came in behind an airliner. The airliner landed, and this thing peeled off and came straight towards me. It flew above me and then disappeared up into the clouds. Just kind of, it was a high overcast that day. And it was the blackest black of anything I have ever seen. I can't describe how black this thing was. I mean, I'm not saying it was something evil, but I've never seen a black that was as black as this thing was. And I did a talk in Phoenix, and I ran into a guy that had seen the same thing, identical. So there's at least one other person out there that's seen the same thing that I have. Okay, I think that's it. The slides. Yep, that's it. Okay. Do you want to take a break now? Where's Jolene? You want to take a break? Want to take a break? Want to keep going? Okay. You guys want to keep going? Okay. Just don't forget to buy a book before you leave. Okay, we can roll the video too then. This is good stuff. We just put this together yesterday. The last 10 minutes of it is incredible stuff, but we tried 3 times. The original was perfect, and on the copy it came out really snowy. We don't know why. We tried 3 times to get it, get that correct, and we just couldn't do it. So what you're going to see is it's going to be real snowy and real staticky, but you can see the activity that's going on. And all of this was taken within the last month. There is audio on it, if you guys can turn the audio up. Yeah, there is audio on that, if you guys, yeah. It's coming up, okay. Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, I can narrate it too if the audio doesn't come up.
Definitely one of them. Not moving a bit, but the light plane is moving.
Those of you who are researchers can appreciate that, being in pitch dark, trying to focus a camera that's on full zoom, have a pair of binoculars in one hand, a still camera in the other, and try to focus a camcorder on full zoom on a tripod. Okay, this is Jerome, town of Jerome, up on the hillside. This is the Phoenix cement plant.
Yeah, that's them. Incredible.
How far away is Jerome?
15 miles. My God, they're back tonight. A different position.
It's almost like they're forming a triangle with the moon.
That's not a plane. That's absolutely not a plane.
This thing was around all night. It kind of, this is on 2 different nights. I do tours out there.
Yeah.
I have a tour company. We do tours out there. Actually, it's been our most popular tour, and we have gotten some video footage like this. This thing was moving very slow, and it had flashing lights around it.
That is a UFO.
Oh no, look at bouncing around.
Plane.
Green and red and green and yellow and blue, the whole bit.
Is it, let me see it.
Yes.
That's not moving.
Look at that. My God, it's putting on a show.
It is.
Can you get that thing focused?
Yeah.
Take a picture, honey.
Oh, I got it.
Take a picture?
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to show up in this one. He's going to have to come a lot closer.
Oh my gosh, there's a bunch of lights in him. Look, he's like above the mountain now.
Oh my God, he's brightening up now.
He's red.
Again, this is all taken within the last month,
Is it bright now?
5 weeks. Some of it was taken just a few days ago.
My God, look at it. Hey, look at that thing.
Look at it through here.
My
Well,
God.
there's 2 of them. There's 2 of them.
Yeah, and there's all this blinking going on. Oh my gosh, look at that thing.
It better not turn out to be a plane. There's no strobes or
It's
anything.
no plane because it's not.
I need to
It's
get a
not
camera with
moving
a
like
better
a
zoom. It's
plane.
got a 200 zoom. I need a 700. And I could get that
And
whole
it's
that
not,
thing
it,
full
the plane
frame.
is so bright.
So that's what I'm going to work on, is getting a better
You don't see
camera.
a plane like that.
Oh, there's the
At
one.
least I told a couple of people that at least I had
Oh,
a
it just
camera.
left.
Yeah.
Forget about the one
A
above.
lot of times I
Look at
didn't.
the thing in the sky. I'm telling you, people. Come on,
Better
Tom, you
not-
see
that
this
better-
stuff more
that
than I do.
Yeah, I've seen it 1,000 times. That better not turn out to be a plane.
It can't be a plane.
It doesn't seem like it.
No,
but
it's not a plane.
we'll find out. If it isn't, that's incredible.
It's gonna come
Look
over,
at the-
it's gonna
Yeah,
get
it's
closer
heading
to
this
us
way.
before it's over with. I'm gonna tell you right now,
It's a plane. It's moving awful slow.
it's not a plane.
Oh my God. It's not even moving now, it's just hovering. Now it's moving again.
Very, very slow.
It's warming us up before it gets closer.
Well, that's not a plane. I'm Time of getting night.
uh,
It pretty was awesome footage. about 8 o'clock. It was right after
It's
dark.
getting higher.
I think it'll come up down here on
If
some
that
of
was a
these.
plane, it'd be long outside.
Oh, look at it move. Did you see that?
No, this was out near the Bradshaw Ranch. In fact, it was between the Bradshaw Ranch and Jerome. I mean, now isn't it interesting? The government's got the Bradshaw Ranch, and all this stuff is going on. I mean, what's
Why did the Bradshaws sell the ranch to whoever?
well, it's a long, complicated story. It didn't have anything to do with UFOs.
That's pretty bizarre.
There was
Did you see the light over there where all those other lights
one of the
were?
Bradshaw boys took
It
on
just
2
went off.
partners,
See
and the
that
partners
row of
sold the
lights
ranch
you're
out from
looking at?
under
There
him
was
to the
some
government.
really strong
That's the
lights.
story I heard, and I think that's
Yeah. Yeah, that was that girl from
the national forest, but it's the government, and it's closed. Nobody can go down there.
You wanna look through these?
Yeah.
See, I've got 3 binoculars.
The ranch has been there since 1949, and it was just in the middle of the national forest. It was a 90-acre parcel of land that Bob Bradshaw bought in 1949, and
Forest Service?
no, it's always been in private ownership. In fact, it was abandoned about 1920. There's an adobe building on there, so Bob bought it in 1949, and the government's been wanting to buy it for over 10 years. They've made a couple of offers when it was for sale, but Bob wanted $4 million and they offered $3 million. So, but now they have it. I can't get that one now. No. Yeah, this is above the This isn't on the Bradshaw Ranch. See, the Bradshaw Ranch is down in a deep valley, and Bradshaw Hill is above it. You can still go to Bradshaw Hill, but you can't go down to the ranch. The gate's closed at the bottom of the hill. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the same general direction as we were looking that night. Yeah.
Bet you, Tom, you're gonna have a story tonight.
Yeah. Now, this thing, if this is an airplane,
no way in hell is that an airplane.
it can go straight up. We watched this thing hover for 5 minutes, fly sideways, and at one point it went straight up vertically, and here it comes right over us. Now, if that's an airplane, it's if that's some government thing, it's
Over here.
pretty impressive. No, it's real hit or miss. It's not really. I was hoping it was a nightly thing, but we went out about 5 times after I got some of this footage, and there was absolutely nothing going on.
See any military aircraft around there at all?
You know, there's so many aircraft.
Yay! I got it. I got it.
There's so many aircraft flying around there. It's really hard to tell.
We're gonna have a show, I'm telling you.
This constant air, because this is an east-west corridor over Sedona, so there's a lot of plane traffic.
It's an airspace in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So there's no real military installations?
No.
Known military installations?
No. No.
Something.
Well, Well, there's Navajo Army Depot. It's up by Flagstaff. It's about it's 5 miles long and 6 miles wide. There could be anything on that. They store munitions up there, and they do have nuclear. They claim they don't have nuclear weapons up there, but they do.
I mean, these are 50-power binoculars if you want to get a close look at it.
Yeah.
USGS headquartered in Flagstaff. I don't know.
Well, this has been one strange night.
Yeah.
You can track it.
Okay, now here this thing's coming, flying right over us. And before, it had gone straight up.
It's just giving us a nice little
And it was hovering over Jerome with the two, and it went sideways, and then turned and had the strobe lights on it like an airplane.
You gonna see?
And it didn't make a sound.
Track it
Didn't make a sound.
with your flashlight.
No, we didn't flash flashlights at it.
Look at that other way. Oh, that's the plane. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, it is. I had the camera on full zoom on the tripod, so it was really hard to follow it. I should have just picked the tripod up. But then what happens is you end up tripping over the tripod. I've done that.
Where's the binoculars?
On this one, yeah. You know, that clicking, I'm trying to, and it's at about a 45-degree angle, so I'm trying to, it's coming over us really fast at this point. Okay, this is a different day, and I've shooting through a night vision binocular. These lights are in the distance on the ridge. What was absolutely incredible to me, there was I now have a night vision. It's mounted to the camera when I want to use it, but I was holding it up by hand here, so it was a little bit awkward. But while I was filming this, a red strobe came around behind this hill, stayed here for about 5 seconds, then just kind of zipped back behind the hill. I mean, it was an incredible thing to see. For some reason, red lights won't won't record on a camcorder. I've got a very good Sony camcorder, and this last footage that you're going to see, a red light flew between the white lights, and it didn't show up at all. For some reason, red doesn't show up.
Okay, did you pick it up, what you got? Okay, come back then. Thank you very much.
Oh, look.
Beautiful color.
No, look what they're doing.
Yeah, what?
No,
See, this is the same thing that was with the night vision, but this is with a regular camera now.
I'm so excited about the color.
It was incredible to watch these things. It was like they were playing out there. They were just kind of darting around, and there was a red one and some white ones.
But they're really
These are probably about a half a mile away from us.
nothing to do with the
Did
big
you ever get any
boys
kind of
on
idea of the
TV,
shape?
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good question. No, not really. They went from either round or a kind of a strange oblong shape like that. And then we noticed the other day when we were copying this that they have white lights like glinting off metal on both sides of them. You can clearly see it on the last 10 minutes. Unfortunately, it didn't show up on this, but the original copy that I have, you can really see it. And see, here it is. It's kind of an oblong like this. And these things just blink on and they blink out. Sometimes they fly around. You'll see them flying around shortly. And the night I was out there, I went out by myself, and this one I had the night vision binoculars mounted to the camcorder. This thing came out just once, like it was checking me out. I didn't see another thing after this one disappeared. It was kind of like it was taking a look at me and then nothing after that.
Oh, yeah. It just split into two. Again.
Okay, actually this is coming out a lot better than.
My God, that is not normal.
Well, this is a heck of a lot better than. Because this is the last 10 minutes, and the snow was so bad you could hardly see it. But it's coming out really good there. Now, if you watch these things, this thing's flying. It's the ground level is right about here, and it's got lights around it. I think you can see them. And whether it's actual lights or metallic stuff that is shining, it's the light's reflecting off the metallic objects, but you can see them on both sides of it.
How far were you from the object?
That's really, really hard to tell. Probably at least a half a mile.
You ever try sending someone to walk toward it?
Yeah, we tried that. We tried getting closer to them, driving closer to them, and usually it doesn't work. You can only see these things from one angle for some reason. If you try to get closer, you won't see them. Actually, Linda Bradshaw and I tried that about 12 years ago. She stayed at the ranch. We could see these things from the ranch, and I went up on Bradshaw Hill, which was less than a quarter of a mile away. Linda could see them clearly, but I couldn't see them at all. So for some reason, these things are real directional, or they just want certain people to see them.
Oh, wait a minute, what? Is there another one above it?
But see, there's one up here, and now this one's developing down here. And this went on for 4.5 hours. I didn't have the tripod that night, so I was bracing the camera on my truck. I had my elbow on my truck. So some of it's pretty shaky. I showed this to Linda Moulton Howe, and she says, "Oh, you guys never have tripods." And I said, "Yeah, but at least I had the camera with me that night."
My God, that's fantastic.
Yes, down here, see?
I've seen something like that quite often, actually, up close. I have them over my head once.
Really?
It's like a dark anthracite color, blue white lights all the way around it.
Huh.
And a Ventura
There it is,
Yukon
look,
investigator and I
splitting again.
actually both shot it
Oh,
at
that's
different
fantastic.
angles. About 2 years ago, we had a chance to film analyze. But
So they are moving.
it gives off some
Not
sort of
much, but
infrared
they are
signature.
moving.
So the CCDs are real sensitive in the infrared. So what we
Yeah.
saw is not what showed up on the camera, and I couldn't understand why it suddenly was whited out.
That's very
Yeah.
So what we did is I said, let's freeze frame it, because I was always had the feeling that they were pulsing something. So if you got white light, it's usually some sort of infrared, because that's the way the CCDs would pick
Yeah.
up something like
Yeah.
that. So when we freeze framed it, lo and behold, we were picking up all sorts of structure on the craft, on the bottom of it. It was flying over our heads, and little white lights around it.
Yeah, that's about the same thing that these were then.
So I'd be interested to see, when you get to really analyze this, what
Yeah, well, we would love to try infrared on these things. We probably will. That's one of the next steps we're going to do.
we weren't shooting in infrared, because it only works like in the cameras we have. Sony's, it only works 30 to 100 feet. It won't work beyond that. But the cameras we were working with were the old Sonys, and they're more sensitive in the
Right,
infrared.
right, they were.
So, and I took it to an optical specialist, and I said, I think this is what's going on. And he said that's exactly what was going on, is that the craft itself was sending off some sort of infrared pulse.
Right.
And it would cause the camera to pick it up as just brilliant white light. But they're at intervals.
Interesting.
So try freeze framing in between pulses of light if you can.
Yeah, that's what
You might
we're
pick up more
doing.
detail.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend that's, luckily I have some wealthy retired friends, that, well, fairly wealthy, but they have a lot of time on their hands, so they can kind of do some of the analytical work with these, because I just don't have the time or the money to do it. See how this splits into two? And at one point it split into three, but I didn't catch the three. See, this one's spreading apart, this one down here, and there's this one over here. And on these, if you can kind of see it, but there's white lights right next to two of these. The first night I saw these, there was a red light flying around it. And the people that was standing, it was a couple from Wales, and we were looking at that, and I said, could that possibly be tail lights of a car driving around a street light or something? Then we realized there's no way it could be tail lights, because you wouldn't see tail lights all the way around. So these things have red lights flying around them sometimes. Somebody said that they looked like they were working. They were doing some kind of a job. I hadn't really thought of that, but it could be. So, watch this one kind of fly through this one. And this went on for 4.5 hours. Jim Dilatoso did a talk, and it did go around the back of it. Somebody said it circled it, and it did.
Yeah. You know what it sort of looks like, are the daylight footage in New Mexico with the spheres circling each other?
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, Jim Dilatoso did a talk in Sedona. I filmed these on a Thursday night, and Dilatoso was going to talk on Friday night. So I ran the whole unedited version for about a half an hour before he spoke, and Jim was really impressed, especially when they split. Okay, now here's a fourth one coming down. Let's see if it's... Yeah, here it comes. Too bad the audio didn't come out too well on that, because the young couple from Wales were just beside themselves with excitement. They said they were gobsmacked. I guess it doesn't get any better than that. Yeah.
And this is the same spot and above Jerome, sort of?
Yes, it's actually Jerome is over here. Actually, if I swung the camera, the Phoenix cement plant would be right here. So Jerome is up in here and to the left, and then the Bradshaw Ranch would be down here. The ground level is right here. So the bottom one is only about 100 feet off the ground. It was very close. See, now these things started out with a triangle. We've been trying to figure this out. And then it went to a square, and I think it goes to, now this one's going to fly, I think, through. Well, it's a triangle, and it went to a perfect square, and I think it's going to go back, they're going to go back to a square. And while they were a square, a red object flew right through them, just like this, same thing, but it didn't show up on the film. And it was breathtaking. Yeah, see, there's the Phoenix cement plant. Okay, now this one's going to fly through, I think. Let's see. Oh no, I just went, shoot. Actually, well, forgotten. I have a friend that's doing some analytical work on these, some embossing, and he said the really strange thing about it is they don't stand out. They're indented into the. They're actually a hole in the film when it's printed out. And he said that's. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to photograph one of the computer embossed ones that he did. But around these lights are all these strange square objects that are embossed on the film. They're all through here. It's very, very unusual.
You know anywhere else on Earth that
Well, no, I really don't know of any of the places on Earth that has the, you know.
This isn't even well covered itself. I mean, you hear allegories about Sedona, but, I mean, you say this happened last few months, and I've heard nothing about something like this. And this is not dissimilar to the Phoenix thing.
Yeah, no, these are, you know, that's why I thought it was interesting that Jim Dilatosa was going to be speaking in Sedona the next night, and these are very, very similar to the Phoenix lights, maybe the same lights.
But you heard a hell of a lot about that, but of course Phoenix is the city of a million.
Yeah.
But I don't hear anything or hardly anything about Sedona.
Well, you know, there used to be a lot of UFO researchers in Sedona. Really, there used to be at least a dozen serious researchers, and most of them have moved away or just kind of quit and gave it up. It's an expensive hobby. It's very time-consuming and very expensive. So it's hard to stick with it. But I do tours out there now, and I charge pretty good, so it does help to support you know, my research and cover some of my expenses.
You work with Bill Hassel?
I didn't hear you.
You work with Dr. Bill Hassel? He moved there just a couple of years.
Bill Hassel, yeah, I see Bill about every month or so.
Is he working with you on these?
Bill Hassel, no, he really isn't. No, he really isn't. No. Okay, that's the end of it. So you guys can turn off the lights, and if you guys want to ask a few questions, I'll be happy to oblige. Take a break.
Everybody, let's give Tom a big hand for that very informative lecture. You know, Tom, everybody's always asking us what's the latest and greatest in UFOs, and it's people like you that are actually going out into the field, taking these photographs, collecting the data, and bringing it to present to us. That's what helps make this field move along, and we really do appreciate it. Folks, lovely Camille James Harmon is standing at the microphone, leading off the question and answer period. If you have any questions for Tom, this is your chance. Please line up. We'd like to get you on camera, so speak into the microphone. We do ask that you state it in the form of a question, and that you limit yourself to just one at a time so that everyone will get a chance. We'll be doing this for about 15 more minutes or so, and then we will adjourn to the coffee shop for some coffee talk with Tom, and we hope you'll all join us at the cafe. While I've got your rapt attention, may I invite our new members and those who have renewed their membership to pick up their yellow cards at the front desk. And we're really happy to have you newbies with us and hope you'll come back again. Also take this opportunity to remind you, next month we will be featuring Frank Carlisle, who will be speaking on flying saucers in the biblical text, solving the riddle of Ezekiel's spinning wheels. This is a cutting-edge new speaker, and we're very excited to presenting him. Please pick up a flyer on your way out or check out the information on the website. Also, we have a new addition to our clearance sale. David Sereda, those of you that, we had kind of a low turnout last time, and I'm real sorry about that because this lecture was absolutely jam-packed full of new information. Not only did David speak on NASA UFO footage, but he really outlined the galaxy in a whole new way. Those of you who are alternative science buffs will definitely, if you didn't make that meeting, want to pick up a copy of this tape at our special rate of only $6. That'll be back at the desk. So meanwhile, Tom, take it away.
Hello, thank you. That was so scary and cool.
Good.
My question is, the kinds of experiences people are having there with beings that they are conscious of and that they do see or feel or hear or whatever you want to call it, and that would include abductions as well as other types of encounters. Would you say their experiences are as frightening as the Bradshaw Ranch stuff, or do they involve more, friendly encounters, or what is the gamut, with experiences with the actual beings that people are aware of and can report on?
That's a really good question. Human fear is a big factor there. If people can control fear. When Linda Bradshaw and I were on the ranch, we found that the beings that we were dealing with didn't like human fear. So I think any UFO experience, human fear has to be factored in, because a lot of the stuff that's really probably not that negative sounds real negative because somebody got terrified. So around Sedona, interesting that you asked that question, because recently there have been some really bizarre, what I would consider abduction type experiences, which I haven't run into before, and I'm kind of confused by it. Something I'm kind of digging into a little bit right now. But it's something I haven't seen before, not quite like what's been going on. So, anyway, that answer your question?
More.
More.
Excuse me, connected to all those UFO sightings and UFO activity, did you see some or a lot of reptilian or insectoid humanoids walking around on the ground, and were there a whole bunch or just some or a whole bunch of UFO abductions connected to all these UFO sightings? Were there?
Well, you know, yeah, the reptilians, that's something that kind of fascinates me. And I've interviewed probably 400 or 500 people in the last 15 or 16 years, and I've run across some really bizarre reptilian stuff. But only one case in Sedona that I know of, and it happened at the Bradshaw Ranch. There were 3 people that saw a reptilian-like creature, and it had a tail, a long tail. They only saw it for a few seconds. It was running down a dry creek bed just outside the ranch. But other than that, there have been no real reptilian-type activity that I know of in Sedona. And there was one case in Jerome about 14 years ago. An 8-year-old boy saw one, and he drew a picture of it. And he was a very good artist. I still got it somewhere. It was a typical reptilian type with extremely muscular scales and a ridge bone on the head. And there's no way an 8-year-old could have known that. So I think what he saw was really genuine.
Well, what about those small grays, and what about UFO abductions, and whether or not, and were those grays involved in those any UFO abductions in Sedona, or those UFO abductions in Sedona, period?
You know, I really don't know that much about the grays. I understand there are 5 different kinds of them, and 5 different species, and a couple of species are negative and a couple aren't. The taller ones are kind of working with us, and the smaller ones aren't. But other than that, I really don't know that much about the grays, because there's been really very little of it happen in Sedona that I can document.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Yes, I've been a regular reader, more or less, of the Sedona Journal of Emergence over the period of the 90s up until the present. And I'm familiar, well, I used to have a copy of your book, Mysteries of Sedona. And I noticed you had drawings in there of insectoid beings. Have you ever actually seen them?
No, but I've interviewed people that have. In fact, I think who you're referring to is David Huggins. David, about 12 years ago, came to Sedona, and a lot of these people were on the verge of suicide or a nervous breakdown. They didn't have anybody to talk to, and David was like that. He was at the end of his rope, and he was an artist, and he drew paintings of these beings. So I connected him with some people, actually UFO CCI in Federal Way, Washington. It was an abduction group back then. And through them, he met people all over the country that had similar experiences with insect types and the praying mantis types. And he actually kind of went on a speaking tour for a while. But other than that, that's all I know about him. I've never seen any myself. Actually, I've never seen an alien. I've seen plenty of UFOs. but I have no conscious memory of seeing an actual alien.
Oh. You were also mentioned the town of Jerome. How far is that from Sedona itself?
18 air miles, straight line.
18 miles west?
South. It's almost directly south.
Oh, strictly south. You mentioned Anton LaVey lived there for 5 years. When was that?
About late 80s. Late 80s.
And was there a lot of UFO paranormal activity at that time?
Yeah, there was, but I don't think it was connected. I think it was pretty much coincidence. But Anton LaVey, there was an established satanic cult in the Verde Valley. There was a little bit in Sedona. But while Anton LaVey was in Jerome, there was a satanic group in the area, and the police were very concerned about it.
Well, was that just before he died?
Right. Yeah, it was just
Did
before
he
he
die
died.
in Jerome?
I don't think so. I think he moved back to, actually, I think it was L.A. I think he came back here. But he was in Jerome for quite a while.
And also, there's been some very interesting people that have been published in the Sedona Journal of Emergence.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with like Ruth Ryden
Vaguely.
and
yeah.
Robert Shapiro?
Yeah, I know Bob real well.
But he's no longer writing for the Sedona Journal, nor is Ruth writing.
Well, Robert Shapiro lives in Hawaii. He lives in Honolulu.
Is he still doing his channeling?
Yeah, regularly. Yeah, I think he's channeled 18 books now. You know, the explorer race. I believe it's 18. That's a lot of books.
And also Wesley Bateman, who is in contact with the Gracians, who were, and they had something to do with the building of the pyramids, both in the Mayan culture and the Egyptian culture. And what's happened to him?
You know, I think Wes Bateman has died. I'm not sure. I meant to, he had cancer real bad. And I've meant to ask around to see how he's doing. He was living in Phoenix the last time I heard. I give Wes Bateman great credibility. I really do. I've always liked Wes. I knew him really well. And he moved to Phoenix. And, you know, some of these people, like Wes, that stuff is pretty far out. But because they're such a credible person, you know, I don't doubt what Wes said. I really don't. His theories, you know, the Federation telepath and that sort of stuff. I just say, okay, you know, it's okay. Sounds fine.
And also William Cooper lived near there. Did you ever meet him?
Yeah, I knew Bill Cooper pretty well. Yeah, you know, Bill wasn't a bad guy. I mean, his problem was he drank too much. I mean, that's what Bill Cooper's downfall was, his drinking and his bad temper. But he really wasn't a bad guy. So, you know.
Do you think they were out to get him, though?
You know, Bill Cooper did himself in with his drinking and bad temper.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
I have a couple of quickies. What year was the acorn-shaped UFO you said people were photographing a lot?
That was 6 years ago, probably about 1997.
Because I photographed one of those in 1998.
You did, yeah?
Yeah, it was black, though, in a daylight sky.
Huh, really? It was during the daytime, yeah.
Yeah, in Florida. And my other question is, how long have people been seeing UFOs in Sedona?
You know, it goes back to 1920.
Okay.
Yep, 1920.
Folks out there, we're so happy you're having a good time and buying stuff, but if you could keep it down a little bit, we're taping these questions, we'd really appreciate it. So use your best library whisper. Thank you.
When did you move into Sedona?
I've been there going on 17 years, going in Sedona.
Did you have any idea what a vortex was until you arrived?
No, you know, when I moved there, I had no interest in UFOs or vortexes or anything else, and I just kind of fell into it. When I moved to Sedona, I was running into UFO activity all over the place. So I just out of curiosity, I started digging into it, and just, you know, and it got deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I've, you know, interviewed at least 500 people in the last 6 years, either casually walking down the street or sitting down at a table with a tape recorder. And this Sedona is a very, very unusual place, and nobody really knows why. Probably my guess is that there was some kind of a civilization there a long, long time ago, and there's a residue of it still there, and people are coming home to a place that used to be. So it's hard to categorize. Like the vortexes, you know, the vortexes I think are just magnetic energy, but there's some mysterious element mixed in with that vortex energy it's really hard to classify. A lot of people have tried, but it just doesn't work.
So after 17 years, what would you say a vortex is?
It's magnetic energy.
And there's something about that seems to connect with aliens that keep bringing them back to the neighborhood?
Well, you know, the Sedona has red rocks. The red rocks it's iron oxide, rust. It's basically rust. And the iron oxide is magnetic. And I was told by one of the top researchers in the world 2 weeks ago that during the Eisenhower administration, they found two spots in the world. Actually, it was Linda Moulton Howe that told me. I guess I can use her name if she sees this tape. But Linda said that during the Eisenhower administration, Sedona was designated as one of the magnetic hotspots on the planet. And I think there were two, and I think the other was Lourdes, France. I'm not real sure, but there were two, and Sedona was one of them. And incidentally, I have seen a friend of mine in Baghdad, Arizona, had a map of the magnetic anomalies on the planet, in Sedona and Prescott, Arizona, were extreme because of the red area. And since then, that map has disappeared, and you can't get it. And the government, you try to get a copy of that map, and they say it never existed, but I've seen it.
So it was a government map?
Yeah, it was a government map. And why is the government so concerned about, magnetic anomalies and keeping them secret? It doesn't seem to.
You seem to insinuate there's a lot of government building underneath there, like military installations, underground bases.
Yeah, well.
Do you really believe that's the case?
Yeah. During the time there were all these gunpoint incidents in the canyons, there were aliens seen in the canyons, and a lot of military activity. In fact, a friend of mine ran into a Marine blockade in Sterling Canyon. He went up to the Marines. He said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" And they said, "We don't know. We've just been ordered to stop people from going into this canyon. We'd like to know ourselves." And so there was a government official about 1987 that ran into a 9-foot tall alien in Secret Canyon. It scared the hell out of him. He went back to a supervisor. Actually, he was assigned to keep people out of Secret Canyon. So after a while, after sitting there for months, he wanted to know what was going on. So we went in, and he walked, according to his story, he walked around a rock and came face to face with a 9-foot tall, gray-type alien. And scared him so bad, he went back to his supervisor and demanded to know what was going on. And he was basically told he'd better forget about what he saw. So I don't know what happened to the guy, but so anyway, so that's how that goes.
My father was born in Jerome when it was still a copper mining town, and I guess today it's been adopted as a kind of artist colony.
Yeah.
Does Jerome have a little bit, you mentioned Jerome a few times, has it also been the site of a lot of UFO sightings or other anomalies?
It's Jerome itself, no. There are people that live in Jerome that look out towards Sedona and see strange UFO activity, especially in Sycamore Canyon. Sycamore Canyon is a weird place. It's 33 miles long, and I just flat don't like the place. I've been in it. It's got a strange feeling to it, and there've been some really bizarre abductions in Sycamore Canyon. But anyway, these people that live in Jerome or Clarkdale or Cottonwood that can see into Sycamore Canyon have seen some pretty strange stuff going on over there as far as lights flying around and strange silver craft and things like that.
Quick last question. Have vortexes caused anyone that you know of to be displaced either in time or space? Or
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I do. In fact, Sharon Forrest, who is kind of a world-renowned healer for a while, had a group in Sedona, and I used to do workshops with Sharon. And if there weren't 15 witnesses to this, I would really doubt it. But she was standing with a woman in Boynton Canyon, at the Boynton Canyon Vortex, and she said they were looking up at Kachina Woman Rock, which is about 100 feet straight up. And she said, well, it'd be really nice to be standing up there and see what the view is like. And she said in an instant, they were both on the top of that rock, standing on top of that rock. And it's a rock even climbers, rope climbers would have a hard time getting up to. And about 15 people saw this happen. And so Sharon said, Sharon's a very unusual person. And Sharon said, we really better get down from here. And instantly they were back on the ground, which was about 500 feet away. That's well witnessed event. So it wasn't just the two of them, yeah.
Hi, Tom. I just wanted to ask, I remember seeing a documentary several years ago about the Bradshaw Ranch, and there was something on there about a dinosaur shape or something that materialized.
Yeah. Oh, right, sure, yeah.
I wondered if you had any information on that, and I also wanted to add that when I was there a few years ago, a woman, I can't remember her name, that ran the metaphysical shop in town, said that she saw a fresh, giant flying reptile print in the ground. She swore to me it was true. I just wondered if you had any information about that.
Well, I don't know about the flying reptile. It's probably a pterodactyl. There's been some really strange stories about pterodactyls, but the dinosaurs, yeah, that's a good. Interesting that you brought that up because I'd kind of forgotten about it. One night, Linda, and I remember it very, very well. Linda and I were standing about 50 feet apart, and Linda was literally screaming at me to look because she could see dinosaurs, you know, the ones with the long necks, the plesiosaurs or whatever that eat plants. And she came over to me and she was really, really angry. That's the only time I've ever seen Linda angry. She said, why didn't you come over? I was screaming at you to come over. She was 50 feet away and I couldn't hear her. And I didn't see the dinosaurs, but she could. So probably she was looking into another dimension. Because I think the Bradshaw Ranch is a thin point between dimensions. I think it probably still is. There's probably, I would guess there's 4 or 5 different dimensions that cross at the Bradshaw Ranch.
Folks, we're going to take one more question, and the rest of you, if you have more questions for Tom, I'm going to have him go back to his table because we're going to have to get out of here pretty quick. So last question, please.
13 years ago, the only time I've been to Sedona, I actually bought your book, the White Book, about the mysteries of Sedona. So by my math, it seems that in 4 years you were really impressed by the place to write that book. There were 2 things that I noted in it particularly. You talked about the events with flying saucers and aliens there, and you also talked about various sorts of creatures that were some non-corporeal, can't pronounce it right, but they're energy beings and such. And I was wondering if you could give us an idea of beings that well, now you said you haven't met any yourself, but other people that you find credible in their experience?
You know, I have clairvoyant abilities, psychic abilities. They're pretty intense. I learned that I had these abilities at the Berkeley Psychic Institute when it was really going strong 15, 20 years ago. I could talk for days about psychic experiences, but what we ran into in some of the canyons, like the spinning energy and the rock people, I wasn't the only one that saw those things. These things were like spinning spirals of energy that were living creatures, I think. And the rock people was the other thing. And these were very tall beings, 6 or 8 feet tall, and they had enormous eyes. it's like I say, if I didn't have witnesses to some of these things that I saw, I would really question my sanity.
Humanoids, 8-foot tall
Yeah,
humanoid?
yeah, and with very big eyes. But I've
But
taken,
not insectoid eyes like Graves?
No, these are, I don't know how you'd categorize them, but I took people back to these places where I knew they were, didn't tell them a thing. And I'd take them back there, these people were known psychics. I'd say, do you see anything? And they'd look around, I'd say, yeah. And I'd tell them, draw what you see. And they would draw the rock people. And I took a guy back there one time in Boynton Canyon, and he said, I see the strangest things over by that tree. And I said, well, what do you see? And he described one of the rock people.
Why rock people? They seem to be made of rock?
Well,
or
no,
they lived out in the rocks?
They live in the rocks. They come from the rocks. The Indians have legends about the rock people. Some of the Indians do. So I would. That's probably what what they were. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Another round of applause for Tom Dongo. Thank you so much. Terrific. Folks, Tom has quite a library back there, and Sandra's helping them out. And if you have a few more questions, you can. We also hope you'll join us at the Paradise Cafe for a beverage or dessert. Please come next month, November, for Frank Carlisle and Biblical UFOs, and log on to our website, www.mufonla.com, for the latest in UFO and paranormal events. Thanks so much for coming tonight. See you next month.